small business. The price of raw materials is going up. We were just talking about, Johnny Carrier can tell you the price of a piece of plywood got up to close to $100. It's impossible for businesses to pass on 100% of that cost. So they take some of it themselves, it squeezes their margin, it makes it more unaffordable to do business in Connecticut. We were at a copying office last week. Some of the paper prices have gone up by 100%. They can't pass that on. So the margins are getting squeezed. Access to affordable skilled labor. Connecticut has one of the highest unemployment rates in the entire country. At the same time, businesses cannot find people with basic skill sets. Drafting, engineering, machine tools, they are all struggling for new workers. And then crime that's absolutely out of control. Absolutely out of control. Every single day, you see more news about unfortunate situations, people being stabbed, people being held up. There was, I think it was WFSB came out with a piece today. The stealing of catalytic converters is up 1,000% in the last 2 years. 1,000%. And the police are advising people that are having their catalytic converters to not do anything. Because there was an incident in Milford yesterday where a person saw their catalytic converter being taken out, and they tried to stop the person, and the person held a gun to their head. I don't know why there's not much reporting about it, but crime is absolutely out of control in Connecticut right now. I'm 60 years old. I've never seen it as bad as it is right now. It's in the cities, it's in the suburbs, and that impacts small business. Employees don't want to come here because they don't feel safe. Companies with fleets of trucks are having their catalytic converters snipped out at night. Nothing to do about it. So we're going to talk about solutions to all these things in a couple minutes, but first, I want to talk to you about Carrier, a builder that's been around for 50 years. This is the perfect example of what Connecticut's all about. A family that started a business and has been thriving ever since, that provides home to people, provides homes that are affordable to the people of Connecticut, has employed workers for years, has paid taxes for years. This is exactly the type of business that we should have in Connecticut, and it's exactly the type of business we're squeezing out of Connecticut. And if you listen to our governor, they'd be better off moving down to Nashville, Tennessee than they would be staying here. It's not right. We're going to have Johnny Carrier come up, the successor in the business here, tell you about some of the issues that he's facing, and then I'll come back and give you our plan to fix it, a real plan to fix what's hurting small business in Connecticut. So, Johnny, come on up.
All right.
I like the shirt, Carrier.
Thank you. I'm John Carrier. I'm a second-generation builder with Carrier. Some of my family members are standing behind me, and some of the colleagues that we work with every day. Honestly, I don't want to come off as a small business and come off whiny or over the top, but it has been very difficult. I'll just say and start off that back in 2008 and 2009, my father and I, my brothers, family members sat around the table really considering if we were going to go down south, because building in Connecticut was difficult. Always has been, but 2008 brought complications that we had never seen. Guys that are in the Home Builders Association comparing it to other recessions they've seen in the past, whether it was the .com or the late 80s or 70s, and they had nothing to compare. We have continued to see very slow growth, very minimal housing starts, and housing affordability that's been just very difficult to attain. Here we are now, we're facing larger costs. These last 2 years have brought an influx. People have been trying to remodel because they've been stuck at home. People are trying to move out, they have nowhere to go. We, as obviously, welcome this, all the business that we can get. I can honestly sit here and tell you that we have not been able to build a single extra house in this time frame, although we're working 50% more just because of supply issues and the volatility in the market and the lumber prices, as Bob stated. We saw our cost of our new house go up by 15%. and following it through, and I don't see those prices coming down. Wood is a part of that. That goes up and down. It's more of a commodity. But some of the other things that people don't talk about is the front door I used to put in was $1,500. Now it's $32. The garage doors were $2,000. Now they're $4,000. Every supplier that I talk to, whether it's lighting or lumber or plumbing, they've all had 15, 20% increases. They're not coming back down either. Unfortunately, we sit here as businesses working 12, 15 hours a day to make it work, and we do. But the people that suffer are the people that work with us, our employees, the people around. They just can't afford what they could afford 2 years ago, even with the pay increases, because God knows we've done a lot of pay increases to keep our very valuable workforce. We can't afford to lose them. The work is there. And those pay increases have been completely erased and then some. Fuel and groceries is pretty much the talk of my job site. When I go down with coffee or whatever, people, the average person working 8 hours a day is just, they're not making ends meet. So we need to do something to get small businesses to be confident. And that's all I sit here and ask out of our next governor, is a little confidence and a little consistency. As businesses, we're always faced with new rules and things, like one of the bills this past session was to make all new houses completely electric. Although that's a great goal, you can't force it on people. You can't force it on the industry, because a lot of those technologies don't exist yet. Is it a goal that we're shooting for? Of course. We all want to be better to the environment. We want to save money, energy. We want to be kind. This is our place. Just like we didn't leave in 2008 and decided to stay here, Connecticut is beautiful and we like to keep it that way. We just need to make it a little friendlier to do business. The other thing I'd like to touch upon is workforce development. That has been a huge item. I know that's been talked about with Bob. We and the home builders are doing the same thing. We're trying to get some curriculum passed now, because not that college isn't the best avenue, but it's not for everybody. It's unaffordable, just like houses are. So getting new skilled craftsmen, tradesmen, people that are doing carpentry. We've had an aging workforce, and anybody who had opportunity, I hate to say it, a lot of my friends growing up, which I grew up the next town over in Bristol, they're gone. Go on my Facebook page. Maybe 25% of them live out of state. I've seen a lot of guys leave, a lot of gals, a lot of people I grew up with. If there isn't anybody that's good for Connecticut, it's the people that are born and raised here that really truly believe and love Connecticut for what it is. And that's why I think we need to work on workforce development, and we need a governor that can do that. Thank you.
Nice job. So there you have it. And I can tell you what Johnny just outlined for you, I hear pretty much at every business I go to across the state. And Johnny, we will be your next governor, so I look forward to fixing those problems. But let me just outline a few steps that when we win the governor we'll take. If you look at what, first of all, what Governor Lamont announced yesterday, put this in perspective, right? We've got over 700,000 people working in small business. He's got at a minimum a $3.5 billion with a B budget surplus. And what's his answer to help small business? Is it to cut regulation? Is it to cut taxes? Is it to help with the workforce development, like Johnny said? No. His answer is to give people loans. By the way, loans you have to pay back. So he's got a $3.5 billion budget surplus. He could be doing things to help people like Johnny Carrier. Instead, it's $150 million of available loans for small business. It's almost insulting. I don't know whether to laugh or cry about what he announced yesterday, but it is insulting to the small business community in terms of how they're suffering. What I'm finding is Governor Lamont is putting out policies that are just enough to run a TV commercial. He puts out an ad that he's going to cut car taxes and how great it is. What happens? Everybody's car tax goes up. He puts out a child tax credit. The last data I saw was about 30% of the people eligible have applied for it. Leave it to this governor to enact tax cuts that don't work. But anyway, what are we going to do? So our plan is two-pronged. One is to reduce and or eliminate the new taxes that Governor Lamont, these are not prior to Governor Lamont, these are new taxes that Governor Lamont put on small business. And the second prong is to create a healthier environment for business in Connecticut. So let's go to taxes. We should immediately eliminate the small business filing fee that Governor Lamont quadrupled. He took it from, I believe, $20 to $80. Number two, we should pay off the $450 million small business loan, insurance loan, that's absolutely strangling businesses in our state. This was a loan that was taken out during the height of COVID by small business to help protect people that were unemployed. Governor Lamont got $6 billion of COVID money. Why in the world wouldn't we use $450 million of that? That's exactly what the COVID money was directed for. Instead, small business is going to have to pay off that loan themselves over the next few years. Most states have paid it off. We should pay it off immediately. We should eliminate the new, and I stress new, tax that Governor Lamont put on food, that he put on personal safety equipment. We should get rid of those immediately. Why in the world, when inflation is at the highest level in 40 years, would we be charging more taxes on food? We should delay, or suspend, I should say, the diesel tax at least until the end of the year. The diesel tax, and the carriers will tell you, when a truck company gets charged a tax, they can't absorb it. They're going to pass it down to consumers. It's inflationary like everything else. Our policies in Connecticut have been as inflationary as anywhere in the state. We had the chance to help. We haven't taken it. Under my administration, we will take the opportunity to help. We need to invest in law enforcement. We'll have a separate section on crime, but we have to refill the ranks of our law enforcement to keep businesses and people safer. The state troopers are supposed to be at 1,200 officers. They're down to beneath 900. That's scary. The head of the union for the state police came out and said, this is a public emergency. I go around the state, every police force I talk to, they're down 10, 20, 30%. They're working double shifts. It's no wonder that crime is spiraling out of control. We've got to bring back qualified immunity. We should reverse that police accountability bill, and we need to find a way to recruit new officers. So let me close with this. I don't want our companies in Connecticut moving to Nashville. Maybe the governor does, I don't. And you heard from Johnny, every one of these businesses getting multiple offers from governments down south. Lower taxes, lower cost of living, cheaper housing, lower utility rates, better infrastructure. That's why Connecticut dropped 15 points in the CNBC rankings. Ned's answer is to put more debt onto companies. Staring into a recession, this is not a time that companies should be levering up. He should be giving back part of that $3.5 billion, which represents taxes that he doesn't need. In essence, he's having small business fund his budget surplus, because instead of giving it back, he's asking small businesses to take out loans. Why in the world would you have small business take out a loan to fund a budget surplus at the state level? So my plan is a real plan. It's actionable. It gives real relief. It includes tax breaks. It improves the quality of the workforce. We need to invest in our trade schools. We need to start introducing some pragmatic skills in high school, some of the trades. As Johnny said, college is terrific, but it's not for everybody. We need to be training our kids to be successful in Connecticut and to take the wild demand we have for jobs from these companies. We need to streamline regulation, and we need to keep people safe. So I want to thank the carriers for coming out today. I want to thank you guys for coming out today. Hopefully it's a little bit cooler today, so that's good news. But with that, we will open it up for questions with me or Johnny or anyone behind me.
Well, you're proposing to eliminate the small business filing fee. My recollection is this was part of a larger increase, across-the-board increase in fees, occupational licenses, things like that. Are you going to do anything more than just eliminate the small business fee?
Absolutely. We should look at that as well, Paul. I don't agree with the concept of a company coming here. They're about to create jobs, and the first thing we do is slap them with a bunch of fees. We shouldn't be charging people fees to set up business in Connecticut. Tax is one thing, but charging people fees to set up when they're bringing jobs and they're bringing their sweat equity in here, I don't agree with it.
And I probably should ask this first. Do you have a bottom line for the tax rate? Obviously, $450 million. I don't know about how much the other proposals.
For the things we proposed here?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's around $600 million, Paul. The thing I'll point out, though, a lot of these are going to be revenue generating. Because if you take some pressure off a small business, they're going to hire more people, they're going to drive more sales, they're going to pay more wages, and it's going to be a virtuous cycle. Right now, we are in a death spiral in our state. We tax more, the amount that goes to the government goes down, and we tax more, and people leave.
What about that corporate, temporary corporate surcharge, which has been around about as long as I've been covering the Capitol? It's faded out here and there and gone up. Is that something that you want to get?
You're talking about the surcharge on what?
The 10% corporate tax surcharge.
Yeah. Get rid of it. I mean, you know, we got to make our state more competitive, and it's not right now.
And just finally, one of the other changes I believe made to the income tax had to do with an adjustment to the credit for the so-called pass-through entity tax, which was created to provide business owners an ability to recoup from their, I guess, from the increases that resulted from the federal 2017.
Yeah, is to take the benefit of the state and local taxes. Absolutely. It started at 93%. Governor Lamont reduced it. Part of the $600 million number I just threw out includes bringing that back to 93%. That's taken about $53 million from small business across the state when they need it most.
What's your specific issue with Lamont's loan program that he just introduced? Is it that it doesn't go far enough, it's not enough? Would you support if it was in concert with other types of programs or sort of incentives?
I think it's window dressing. And fine, if small business needs access to loan, that's fine. It's yet another government program. You know, we have a plan where you can do it directly through the community banks and reduce the red tape and reduce the middleman, and I would argue the private sector 9 times out of 10 is better running something than the public sector. But I don't think our number one thing to help small business right now is to ask them to take on more debt. It should be reducing taxes. It should be helping them with workforce development. It should be making the community safer. All of those things are under the governor's control. He's got $3.5 billion to do it. We're in the middle of it right now. He calls it a rainy day fund. It is pouring right now on small business, and we really need to do something to help these people out.
So you would pay for your plan using the surplus?
Yes. And I believe that it's going to generate more tax revenue. So a lot of these, quote, costs in the $600 million are going to be offset by more employment, more sales, which is going to drive taxes coming in.
Again, I know I've asked you this question before, but you brought up the inflation, the car tax thing. I don't know if the governor of Connecticut has any power over the used car market or the semiconductor chip market. So I understand you believe that spending and tax policies enacted under Governor Lamont have worsened inflation in Connecticut, but yet there are factors contributing to inflation that are outside the control of a governor, even Governor Bob Stefanowski, right?
Did you ever hear the phrase, the buck stops here? I'm sure you have. That's number one. Number two, Governor Lamont has supported Joe Biden as in agenda for day one. He supported yet another $1 trillion stimulus package that, thank God, it didn't pass. The bigger thing, Paul, is Governor Lamont could be doing a lot of things to make it easier. You know, inflation is caused by excessive government spending. Governor Lamont has increased the state of Connecticut budget by $4 billion. That's inflationary. He spent $6 billion of COVID money. One of the things we're going to do when we're governor is audit where that went, because I don't know where it went. He increased taxes. That's inflationary. He added a tax on food. He added a tax on PPE. So the fact that he's not doing anything, when people, and I'm not making this up, Paul, people in New Haven and other places, they are literally making a choice between whether they feed their family, pay their utility bill, or put gas in their car. Meanwhile, we're sitting on billions of dollars up in Hartford. I don't understand it. I don't know how you get up in the morning, look yourself in the mirror, know that people are struggling to feed themselves, and you're sitting on $3.5 billion. It's beyond belief, Paul.
The child tax credit that we alluded to earlier, that's a big chunk of his $640 million or $650 million tax plan. If that turns out to be less than the $150 million I believe was supposed to, do you expect the governor to readjust his tax cut?
Well, first of all,
instead of $640 million, it's $590 million. You know, if,
yeah.
You know, do you expect him to do the math and adjust his estimate of the tax?
First of all, just like with the car tax, he implemented it in the wrong way, right? You can't send a postcard to people and say, please apply. He knows how many children are taking on dependent tax forms. It's listed right there. The names are listed. You could have gone out to those families and said, my family, Megan, Lauren, and Rachel, I know you have 3. Here's your tax. Why do you send out a postcard? And I'll debate your earlier point. We all knew the Blue Book value of cars was going up. We all know the used car values are going up. And then what does he do? He blames it on the mayors for not taking their mill rate down. The buck stops with him, Paul. And not only has he not cut taxes, when he's tried to cut taxes, they've actually gone up. I mean, we lose our perspective because it's so crazy in Connecticut. This stuff is absolutely crazy. Governor Sununu came out 3 weeks ago. He said, what's going on in Connecticut? I said, well, the diesel tax is going up July 1st. He laughed. He thought I was joking. He said, well, no, okay, it was codified, it was scheduled to go up. But the governor could have easily called a special session and suspended that. So there's a lot of things he could be doing, Paul, and I don't want to laugh about it because that's the sad part. There's a lot of things this governor could be doing. I think he's absolutely out of touch with what people are going through.
One of the things you don't expect him to do is to readjust his estimate of the tax savings based on the outcome with the spread.
I think there's a lot of numbers flying around up there, Paul. I don't know what he's going to do. Let's take one last question, if any. I worry out. Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks for coming out. Any questions for John? No? Okay.